Emma slowly opened her eyes, her vision blurred by the harsh fluorescent lights of the hospital room. A dull, throbbing pain pulsed in her head and her thoughts felt like scattered ashes of a burned book. Everything erased, every word forgotten. Panic crept into her chest, heavy and suffocating. She couldn't remember where she was, what had happened, or even her own name. Next to her, a man with warm brown eyes and a soft, reassuring smile sat holding her hand. His face lit up with relief as she stirred awake. "Emma," he whispered, his voice trembling as if carrying the weight of days of worry. "You're finally awake. I thought I'd lost you." Emma frowned, her mind grasping for recognition that refused to come. Who are you?" she asked in a hoarse whisper. The man's smile faltered for a moment before he replied softly, "I'm Jack, your husband. You had a bad car accident, and the doctors say your memory loss is temporary. But don't worry, I'll help you through this." Emma wanted to believe him. She wanted to trust the kind man sitting beside her. But something deep inside her didn't feel right. And so began Emma's journey to uncover who she really was and the truth about the man who called himself her husband. The harsh light of the hospital room made Emma squint as her eyes adjusted. Her head throbbed as if someone had struck a heavy blow to her mind, erasing all her memories. "Emma, how are you feeling?" The soft voice of the man beside her broke through her confusion. She turned to look at him. He had neatly combed brown hair and eyes full of worry. He sat close to her bed, holding her hand tightly, as though afraid she might disappear. Where am I? What happened?" Emma asked, her voice raspy. "You're in the hospital. You were in a car accident," he explained, his face anxious but his tone calm. "I'm Jack, your husband. The doctors said you've suffered temporary memory loss." Emma stared at him, her expression confused as she searched her mind for any image, any memory of the man before her, but her mind was blank. "I don't remember anything," she whispered, her voice trembling. Jack gently squeezed her hand, giving her a reassuring smile. "It's okay, Emma. I'll help you remember everything. I'm here for you." Although Jack's voice was kind and his actions were tender, Emma couldn't shake the uneasy feeling growing within her. She couldn't explain why, but something about him didn't sit right. A few days after being discharged from the hospital, Emma sat quietly in the car, staring out the window as Jack drove her home. The car stopped in front of a charming apartment nestled in a quiet neighborhood. "Welcome home," Jack said warmly, smiling as he helped her out of the car. Emma stepped into the apartment, a mix of curiosity and unease swirling in her chest. The living room was spacious and decorated in warm tones, with a cozy sofa and neatly arranged shelves filled with books. On the walls hung framed photos of a couple smiling brightly together. Emma leaned in closer to examine the pictures. It was her, hand in hand with Jack, both of them beaming with happiness. "Do you recognize anything?" Jack asked, his voice full of hope. Emma shook her head, frustration flickering in her eyes. "No, not yet," she murmured, disappointment lacing her tone. Jack gave her a patient tour of the apartment, pointing out every corner. The kitchen filled with cooking tools he said were her favorites. The bedroom with a vanity table holding small trinkets like perfume bottles and an old hairbrush. "Take your time, sweetheart," Jack said softly, his hand resting gently on her shoulder. "This is your home, and I'll be here for you, every step of the way." In the days that followed, Jack devoted himself to caring for Emma. He cooked meals he claimed were her favorites, shared stories of their supposedly happy life together, and even brought out personal items to jog her memory. Jack also explained that her friends were concerned, but that he had asked them to give her some space. "They're sending their love and hoping you'll recover soon," he said with a smile. Even though her memory remained blank, Emma couldn't deny Jack's kindness and dedication. She began to feel safe in his presence, yet a strange uneasiness lingered in her heart. It was an inexplicable conflict, a tension between gratitude for his care and a nagging suspicion that something wasn't right. One morning, while Jack was out grocery shopping, Emma decided to explore the apartment on her own. Although Jack had been nothing but caring and attentive, the unease in her heart continued to grow. She felt like there was something she wasn't being told, something she needed to find to fill the void in her mind. Emma wandered into Jack's office, a tidy space with a desk, bookshelves, and several drawers. While opening the drawers, she came across one that was locked. Her heart began to race, and curiosity pushed her forward. Finding the key in another drawer, Emma unlocked the mysterious compartment. Inside, she found an old folder and a small box containing photographs. She picked up one of the photos, which showed her and Jack standing in front of a building, smiling brightly. Flipping it over, she noticed the date written on the back. It was from 5 years ago. As she dug further, Emma's fingers trembled when she pulled out a significant document. A divorce certificate, signed by both her and Jack, dated just over a year ago. In that moment, it felt as though the ground beneath her feet gave way and she was falling into an abyss of betrayal and confusion. Feelings of betrayal surged through her. "Why?" she murmured to herself. Quickly, Emma put everything back in its place, wiped away her tears, and tried to compose herself when she heard the front door opening. Jack walked into the kitchen, carrying grocery bags. He smiled at her, but the smile faded as he noticed her distressed expression. "Is everything okay, sweetheart?" Jack asked, his voice filled with concern. Emma looked at him, tears streaming down her face. Her voice trembled as she spoke. "Why did you lie? Why did you pretend we were still married? I found the divorce papers, Jack." Jack froze, his face turning pale. He lowered his eyes, unable to meet her gaze. "Emma, I can explain." "Then explain," Emma nearly shouted. "Explain why you've been taking advantage of my memory loss to deceive me." Jack exhaled deeply and sat down at the kitchen table. "Sit down, Emma. I'll tell you everything," he said, his tone heavy with guilt. Emma hesitated but eventually sat across from him, arms crossed defensively. She braced herself for the truth, no matter how painful it might be. Jack sat silently for a moment, avoiding Emma's gaze, which was filled with pain and anger. He seemed to be carefully choosing his words, weighing every sentence before speaking. "You're right, Emma," Jack began, his voice heavy with remorse. "I lied to you, and I'm sorry for that. But please understand, I didn't do it to hurt you." Emma said nothing, her piercing gaze fixed on him, waiting for an explanation. Jack sighed deeply and continued. "We got divorced over a year ago. Honestly, it was one of the hardest times of my life. You weren't the person you are now. You were different. You were incredibly perfectionistic, controlling, and obsessed with work." Emma's eyes widened in shock, his words hitting her like a physical blow. "What do you mean? What did I do?" "You became someone who made everyone around you walk on eggshells. Even me," Jack said, his voice breaking slightly. "You criticized everything, demanded I change to fit your impossible standards, and refused to accept any flaws. Gradually, you pushed away your friends, your colleagues, and eventually, me." Emma stared at Jack, tears streaming down her face. "But why are you here now? Why didn't you just leave me alone?" Jack took a deep breath, his eyes glistening with emotion. "Because I still love you, Emma. Despite everything that happened, I couldn't stop caring about you. When I heard about your accident, I knew you didn't have anyone else. Your friends, your family, they had all distanced themselves. I couldn't just leave you in that situation." Emma felt her chest tighten as a flood of emotions overwhelmed her. The sweet and generous woman Jack had described was only part of the story. She hadn't realized she had caused so much pain to the people around her. Jack continued, his voice softer now. "I thought that without your memories of the past, you could have a chance to start over. I wanted to help you rediscover the best version of yourself." Emma abruptly stood up, unable to hear more. "You had no right to decide that for me, Jack. You had no right to hide the truth from me." "I know," Jack admitted, lowering his head in shame. "I was wrong, but all I wanted was for you to be happy." Emma turned and left the room, tears streaming down her face. Jack's words had struck a deep chord within her, leaving her feeling a mix of heartbreak, shame, and confusion. Jack's words echoed in Emma's mind for days. She couldn't accept that she had been such a terrible person, someone who hurt everyone around her, but at the same time, she couldn't shake the feeling that Jack was telling the truth. Determined to uncover the full story, Emma began searching every corner of the apartment, hoping to piece together fragments of her past. She rifled through drawers and cabinets until she found an old laptop tucked away in the closet. When she powered it on, Emma discovered a trove of old emails she had sent. The messages were cold and harsh. In one, she scolded a colleague for a minor mistake. In another, she dismissed someone's ideas with cutting remarks. One email even revealed she had fired an employee over a trivial issue. Emma shuddered, wondering how she could have acted this way. She continued her search and logged into her old social media accounts. There, she found posts filled with arrogance, mocking comments and criticisms directed at others. Emma even stumbled upon an abandoned blog where she had written disdainful articles, belittling people who didn't meet her standards. The words she read felt like knives cutting into her self-worth. She couldn't recognize the woman who had written them, a woman who was proud, cold, and dismissive. But the most painful realization was that it was her. In a moment of weakness, Emma closed the laptop and sank to the floor, tears streaming down her face. "How did I become this person?" she whispered, her heart heavy with sorrow and regret. Instead of succumbing to despair, Emma made a choice. She knew that if she wanted to change, she first had to confront the truth about who she had been. After days of self-reflection, Emma realized she needed to hear the full truth from Jack. No matter how painful it was, she couldn't continue living with the weight of unanswered questions. She found Jack on the back porch, quietly tending to the rose bushes, a small sanctuary she had noticed he cherished. Emma stood there for a moment, taking a deep breath before speaking. "Jack," she called, her voice trembling but firm. Jack turned to her, his expression soft but worried. "I know you need more time," he began, but Emma cut him off. "No, Jack, I don't need more time. I need the truth. All of it." She walked closer and sat down in the chair beside him. "Tell me everything. No more omissions." Jack was silent for a moment, but as he met her determined gaze, he nodded. "All right, you deserve to know everything." He started from the beginning, recounting how they had met in college, fallen in love, and gotten married young, full of dreams for the future. The first few years were blissful, but then things began to change. "You became obsessed with your career," Jack said, his voice heavy. "You wanted success and status so badly that it started to consume you. You demanded perfection from everyone around you, including yourself. No one, especially not me, was ever good enough for you." Emma sat frozen, each of Jack's words peeling back layers of the person she used to be, a person she didn't recognize. "I tried everything to save our marriage," Jack continued. "I suggested therapy, tried to talk to you, even begged you to see what you were doing, but you refused. You said the problem wasn't you, it was me." Jack paused, his voice choking with emotion. "I fell into depression, Emma. Your constant disapproval and criticism destroyed me. I lost myself entirely." Emma's heart ached as she listened, memories of the emails, social media posts, and blog entries flashing through her mind. It all aligned with what Jack was saying. "Eventually, I realized I had to leave to survive," Jack admitted. "So I asked for a divorce. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, but I had no other choice." Emma lowered her head, tears streaming silently down her face. "Did I really hurt you that much?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. Jack nodded, his expression softening. "Yes, but I never stopped loving you. When I heard about your accident, I knew you didn't have anyone left. Despite everything, I couldn't just abandon you." Emma lifted her tear-streaked face to meet Jack's eyes. In that moment, she understood the depth of his sacrifice, the love it must have taken for him to stay by her side despite all she had done. "Jack," she said, her voice breaking, "I don't know if I can change, but I want to try. I don't want to be the person I used to be. If you're willing, I'd like to start over, not as the old Emma, but as someone new." Jack looked at her for a long moment before a warm smile spread across his face, his eyes glistening. "I've always believed you could change, Emma, and if you're willing to try, then so am I." In the days that followed, Emma began the journey of rebuilding her life. She knew it wouldn't be easy. Her past had left deep scars, not just on others, but also on herself. Yet, for the first time since waking up in the hospital, Emma felt like she was on the right path. She started with small steps. Emma reached out to old friends she had hurt, offering heartfelt apologies and a willingness to mend the relationships. Not everyone was ready to forgive, but that didn't discourage her. She understood that trust would take time to rebuild. Emma took her first steps toward healing by starting therapy. Each session felt like unearthing buried fragments of herself, painful but necessary. She wasn't just confronting her past, she was learning how to rebuild, one piece at a time. In each session, she realized that losing her memory had given her a rare opportunity, a chance to start fresh and become a better version of herself. Her relationship with Jack also evolved. This time, they weren't relying on the beautiful memories of their past. Instead, they were building something new, rooted in honesty and mutual respect. They spent more time talking openly, sharing their genuine thoughts and feelings. One morning, Emma walked out to the backyard where Jack was tending to his beloved rose bushes. She stood there for a moment, watching him, before stepping closer. "Jack," she called softly. He turned to her, a gentle smile spreading across his face. "Hey," he said. Emma walked up to him and took his hand. "Thank you for not giving up on me," she said, her eyes glistening with gratitude. "I know this journey won't be easy, but I promise I'll try my best. Not just for you, but because I want to be better for myself." Jack squeezed her hand, his smile growing warmer. "I believe in you, Emma, and this time, we'll do things the right way." And so Emma and Jack began a new chapter in their lives. The past wasn't forgotten, but it became a lesson, a foundation upon which they could build a brighter future. Emma knew challenges lay ahead, but she no longer felt afraid. With Jack's support and her own determination, she was ready to become the best version of herself, a woman deserving of love, forgiveness, and the second chance she had been given.